Yes, I'm Andrea Möhn. I'm a principal of Andrea Möhn Architects in Rotterdam since more than 25 years. I'm also a teacher at Delft Technical University in Dortmund at the School for Sciences and at the Academy in Rotterdam, Academy of Architecture, which I love very much. My work is specialized on healthcare architecture and especially mental healthcare architecture and how to design projects with these vulnerable people fascinates me since I'm a student like you, and I'm very happy that I can work in this field. And I'd like to take you with me through a couple of projects to show you my approach and also the results, because it can very much change the behavior of the users, and I think that's very interesting. This is a quick overview of a couple of healthcare projects we did, from daycare centers to medical center, clinic, dwellings, lots of different things, psychiatric clinic, and I will show you also some very special rooms we designed at the end of the lecture. Well, how did everything start? Actually, in my own youth, and I think I got very much sensibilized by visiting my father in the hospital while I was a kid and a teenager, where he had to stay quite often. And I remember that I really got kind of shock when I entered this machine and these endless corridors. I think you all know these kind of horrible hospitals. I mean, there are lots of beautiful now, but in the 70s, it was really like a big machine, certainly a good hospital. And after running for 6 minutes through the hospital, in the end, long corridor, and then we opened the door. Behind that door was my father, and it was like a safe haven. And these 2 square meters of his bed, there was his warmth, his love, and then we felt protected. And I thought, even as a child, how can get people healthy in this environment? It's not really motivating. So what is needed to design healing architecture? As a student, we mostly learn to focus on aesthetic aspects, technical aspects. But for me, it's very important that we finally start to introduce sociological and psychological aspects and to bring all together, because only looking with these only 3 aspects really can help us understanding a person's need, not only the physical needs, but especially the psychological needs, which is even more difficult, I think. So what I usually do is I'm observing, I'm listening to the clients, I do a lot of participatory work. Then I do behavioral research, and this participation where I introduce them really fully in the process. So what do we think when we think of healing architecture? I think the first thought is something natural materials and nature. So I start with our first project. It's and well-being and relaxation, of course. And I will introduce you to a daycare center in Delft, in the Netherlands. First, it looked like this, and then they asked us to change it and to add some groups, but it was really very, very difficult. And we decided to use a very natural material, thatch, which grows in this muddy area around the building, and which is a very good material also for facades. But you get a different expression, different atmosphere, and much more feeling of well-being. You also see that this facade has a little knick. It really gives you a hug. It protects you. From the other side, it was just the extension and the renovation and this new facade, and completely changed the atmosphere. Here you see how they worked on the project with this old craftsmanship. Very nice to see it. We detailed the building carefully, how that the water can run down, and all these special things you need, like you use for old windmills in the Netherlands or roofs. So, and it's a very ecological building, although it's from the 2007, so it's more than 16 years old now. Until the entrance hall, the material really goes inside. And now it looks like this because thatch gets gray, and still it looks nice. And what I like very much, what I do like very much is that when the people like their buildings, then they create initiatives, and then they decided we wanted to have a healing garden. So it was on their own that they designed this together with a landscape architect and changed the environment. And I think this is a very good sign when people really adapt a building. That's what they added. And finally, it's a very sustainable material too. So the more vertical you use thatch, the longer it rests. And if you use it that vertical, it can stay for 70 years, which is quite long. And every year, a workman comes and puts some sticks in it and repairs a few things. But it's really, really great how it lasts. Very natural material too is when you work with CLT, cross-laminated timber. This has been our own house in the harbor area of Rotterdam, really in the inner city. And in 5 days, our entire house was built and put together with these wooden materials. You can see something there. And the acoustics are very, very nice, but it causes a feeling of well-being. Something we had to find a solution for was this daycare center. This is after the renovation, but when we arrived, we saw this, and it had been, the problem was that it was in a living environment, with lots of normal houses around, and mentally disabled clients were sitting behind the fence, and it was their garden, and they were really like carried like a bit like felt like caged animals. So when we were asked to do a facelift and a renovation, we said, well, we have to start the facelift with the fence and solve the problem entirely. So when we make a facelift starting at the fence, we can win two things in one. So that's what we did. So we made a big fence of natural material or sheep fence around, and printed glass with wood on it. This is a picture of the garden, and on the top, on the right side, you see that there has been a parking spot first, and it was really not a nice environment. We said, okay, we completely changed the direction, so we will have the entrance from the side, and we make a really nice park between the two buildings. When you enter the building now, this is the reception, and where they can have lunch on the left side, and you look to the outside. I jump back one back. You see also these curved material going up a little bit. It also protects against wheelchairs. Who, when they drive with electric wheelchairs into this daycare center, then they cannot demolish it. So it's also, how can you find a nice solution that people hardly can demolish things, but that it looks good. I mentioned that I always do participation. And what I really love is when I do schools, or in this case, a school playground, I invite the kids to do a workshop with me. So I asked them, how would you like to have your school where you have your break and school plaza. So they started to draw, and what I liked, the little kids, they directly draw what they wish and what they want. And the older children, they say, oh, can we get some drawings? We would like to place it in context and to understand. Really nice, like students. And then we designed together this playground. And it's a very natural, in the middle of the center of Rotterdam. But when they have the break now, they run out and they run over these stepping points. It's like a ceremony, and then they start playing, and then the break starts. We used the materials have been there. There was a bamboo jungle, and we did not demolish the things, but reused them and changed them, and a really nice atmosphere arose. This is a project of a small chapel. Actually, it was existing. First, it has been a horse stable. Then they transformed it into a chapel and designed. On the left side, you can see the design first. It was really dark and brown, and they designed it themselves. And they asked me to change it and to make more serene and spiritual space from it. So we changed the light, we used nicer colors, and we made a very nice art project behind the altar, which is made from different pieces of perspex, kind of glass, and they move slowly. So when you are in the space and you move or you breathe, your air makes these little pieces move, and it's very makes you very, very calm. Also, the table made from massive oak wood, because there are a lot of oak trees around, and I think this is a nice reference. Also, the artifact with the baptism font and the benches, everything was designed in a very natural way. This is a very huge project. There's been a competition for a heart clinic in Hamburg, and about natural experience, what we did was, when you look at the facades are very green, but next step, if you look to the patio, there's a lot of green and on the facades, but you also see a canyon right down in the parking garage. So when you enter the building, you go over a canyon, which is kind of green, and when you're in the parking garage, you can see this canyon. When you're on top, you see this. You look down and there's a waterfall, which also gives fresh air to the parking garage. So with very simple additional things, you can create a very special and spectacular atmosphere. What is very, very important always for people with a mental disability is orientation. If they cannot orientate, they feel very insecure. In this case, it was a very difficult task. It's a daycare center, and we had a task to design for adults with the mental capacity of babies. So imagine you cannot read, you cannot write, and you have to find intuitively your way. What we did is, when you enter the building, you walk to a honey-colored wall. You see it at the back side. It's lightened from top, so it directly attracts you. This is in this hall. You see that the second wall, this curved wall, and there are the entrances, the little niches to the groups. So they can find this. They walk straight into the hall, and then they go to the left or the right, but they are independent. They can use this building independently, and they can also, there are some helping aspects, like you see these little line along the wall. This helps them. This is an ongoing line, and only when it's interrupted, they are allowed to enter a room. So that's something they know, and then they walk, and only when there are special rooms and it's interrupted, they can enter these rooms. You can also see that the entrance mattress is not anthracite, it's not dark, what we usually would decide or choose for as architects. But if it would be very dark because of their visual handicap, they would never enter a building, because they would think it's a hole, and they get into it. They can't see. They have no three-dimensional view when they see something that is black or nearly black. So we had to choose another color. And what I like very much is that they use this central entrance hall for King's Day, for all the, and when the Santa Claus is coming and all these parties, and when they wait for the bus. This from the outside. And also for people with mental disability, we designed a medical center. It was a quite huge building, a renovation of an existing building. Here you can see the entire building with different areas, with swimming pool, with sport facilities, with physicians, therapists, daycare part. And they had, I think, 5 different entrances. The task was to make one expertise center, and with one entrance. And maybe you can see the thin line in the front. We added just a corridor, and we renovated the entire building. So before it looked like this, and it was really from the 70s and run down, and we renovated everything. We used natural isolation, and we added this corridor. So nice details with this Japanese rain thing. as a student, I went to Mexico, and I was always impressed by the metro system, because it's very clear. And even as an analphabet, you can use it because it's based on colors and signs. So imagine a city of 25 million people. Lots of them cannot read or write, and they intuitively can move through this big city. So that was a very, very much inspiration, a big inspiration. And what we did is that it has to be that clear, because these people also cannot read and use the normal wayfinding. So we decide to make 3 main areas where we show them the way to. So when you enter the building, you arrive at the reception, and then you can directly see into 3 directions: on the left, on the right, and behind me. So they can see that they have an overview, and they can see that they can follow to, let's say, physio. What you can see here, there are 3 billboards that symbolize the areas they can go to, and this antelope made from tennis balls shows the way to the physio and swimming pool and all these therapies more physically. We work together with the Silo agency in Den Haag. They make beautiful wayfinding, and they designed these billboards and also the wallpapers I will show you later on. When it came to thinking about how can we find a natural solution that they will not drive with their electric wheelchairs into the left side, where the new where the old facade has been broken open and there are offices now, we decided to use the same visual effect, like these sticks, these trees on the right, and we also introduce them on the left side. This means now they stay on track, and they stay between these 2 visual vertical elements, these wooden sticks. It's very interesting. So you don't need these steel and bumpers or whatever. You can do things very smartly with visual solution. We asked the Silo also to do wallpapers. So in all the meeting rooms along this corridor, we used really beautiful wallpapers, and they made rabbits from cactus, and pigs from pearls, and elephant from feathers. So always the opposite, to trigger the mentally disabled people, and that they say, hey, that's strange. Rabbits, sweet rabbits from cactus. Really, really nice art project. Here you see Nemo in the corridor. And we had a very intensive participatory process. 120 people were involved, 120 therapists, and they all had to tell us what they needed, which space. So we made lists and diagrams, and we discussed it many times until we really found the solution. And in the end, it turned out like this. They really loved their center very much. And what was very important is to exclude nobody. This is a daycare center for mentally disabled, so everybody should feel included. And until the smallest detail, like this bench on the left side. So when they want to sit down, they really want to have their own spot, and they really want to grab the handrail to sit down and to orientate. So, okay, now I can sit down. It's very, very important to design that carefully. This is the lunch table on the first floor. Yeah, and we won a prize. So we were highly recommended at the European Healthcare Design Conference in London in 2019. It's a kind of universal design. I like that word much more than exclusive design, because it really excludes nobody, and it should be natural. This is a dwelling for mentally disabled people on 2 floors, and it was important for me that we make a big ramp, so even the people who live on the first floor can go there on their own without an elevator or what else. So there's a huge ramp going around a row of trees. You even can grab the trees, and you really create dignity by this inclusion. It's very important that nobody feels excluded. And then when you're on the top floor, then you enter your dwelling. This is from the front. Oh yeah, and they had a big wish. When we asked them, how should the building look like? They said, oh, we would really love to live in a normal house like normal people do. So that's very important, to give them their dignity, to not giving them into like an institution, a building that looks like an institution, but like a normal house, like normal people. So ramp around and on top. And before the entrances, we have these little benches. And it's much nicer to have a bench next an entrance. It calms you down. It's you can sit there, you can have a look, but even it's more friendly a gesture than without a bench. Then you enter and you go to the other side, and it's light comes from the other side, and you have these green areas with these trees where you can just chill and sit down. They can cook together. Very important, this experience of cooking and bringing everybody together. And we asked them to help us designing the building. So each one has been asked, how should your room look like? And yeah, they designed it individually with the colors, some in pink and some in blue and some in white, very different. When I do teaching, I also try to sensibilize my students by getting very much aware of what is important for behavioral design. So usually I ask them to bring 3 photographs from their family or from situations that touch them very much, and they have some health issues. And in this case, it was a student who brought the wedding photo of her parents. And you see that lots of people already died or had cancer or had rheumatic or some diseases. So actually it's everywhere, and we are all surrounded by health issues. And it's important to sensibilize us for these important topics. Learning to observe is very important too. So just walk blinded through the academy and or the university and develop how it feels like when you can't orientate and you are in a vulnerable situation or in a wheelchair. You get other insights, and they also have to run somewhere in a very ugly building in a healthcare institution to see how things are not working. These are some examples from Dortmund, future living, how people can live together, and the students had to do research which people could live together and why, and to get a more new inclusivity where old people and young people live together, and you have to know what they really need. So they did interviews, and they found out that sometimes an old person really would love to cook for a younger one, for a student, because she has plenty of time, and the student hasn't had time. So you can have really nice living environments together when you listen to each other and you know each other. In this case, for this work home, these are 3 dwellings, 3 houses with dwellings for mentally disabled people and 1 daycare center. We also did a workshop with the clients. It was the first time, and you can really introduce, you can really ask everybody, doesn't matter about capacity, to help. So what we did is that we did a workshop with them, and we asked them, how would you like to have your room? How should be the entrance? How should be the living room? And they could really, really mention it. It was very, very interesting. They were very proud too, and they wished to live there. And then in the end, they did. Yeah, I think that's very important, really, to see everybody as equal and include in the process. It's really in Holland, in the Dutch landscape, with chicken and everything farm. So stimulation and self-determination, empowerment, this is very important for the dignity of people. If you feel empowered, you accept the building, you love it, and you are part of it. This has been an old school building in Rotterdam. We did a renovation. It's from 1925. Yeah, the old drawings from 100 years ago. And even 1 year later, it has been topped with another floor. But it was kind of run down, and everything was dense and not really a nice overview, not nice colors. So they asked us to find a very smart solution in these very compact building with these very small old classrooms. And what we did is that we used the corridor with different areas where they could also learn except in their classrooms. So except in these dense classrooms, they could sit down on kind of rocks or at tables where they can do group work. And the very small area of the cupboard was very important to use. So now on the left side, you have 1 feet deep, you have this cupboard where they can put all their stuff. And on the right side, you have these kind of rocks where they can sit down. And what I really like very much is that they adapt it, that they start designing. These cupboard is always restyled by each group. So maybe they work on a project now, the world, or it's Christmas, or you have these topics, and they really like to design it. They also like to work there and to stand there because it's unconventional. It's not like sitting just at a table. So you have different spots. They especially love these rocks. And when they do to have to brainstorm, they love it to sit there. It's the exterior of the school now. Much more elegant. It was a very low budget, but I think we did a good job. And how can AI help create your own healing environment? We worked on a research project from Nightingale and Maggie to Maya. This is Femke Veenstra from the Netherlands, an architect, and Nirit Philosoph from Israel, and Johan van der Swart, situated in Norway. And we worked together, and we thought about how could we create a kind of app. So, Nightingale and everything was very much about light and space and daylight and air and cleanliness, but it's long ago. And then you maybe know about the Maggie centers, very much about how do people feel and how when they have cancer and for the last weeks, how can they stay somewhere where they have a really healing environment. And we thought there must be a next step. So we all are very digital. As you see, you're all behind your laptop, and me too, although I'm in Europe and you're in Washington. So big distance, but it's possible. What would happen if we would have a kind of app and we could choose from different healthcare facilities we need? So especially treatment also at home, or in a little health house in your neighborhood. Imagine you would focus on different possibilities to have treatment, not only in the hospital, also because of the costs, but also because of your well-being. It's much nicer to have certain things at home. You could have your consultation online at home with a doctor. Why not? You could do a treatment at home. I think that this will be really the future. Or you go next door to this health house where you can have this consultation and a treatment and groups where you have cooking lessons and you learn from each other. Information sessions. Or you really have to go to the hospital and you have the treatment there. You can even stay overnight. And there are also different places that are more inspiring than a hospital now, where you can have your treatment. But you can choose with your app what you want, and you can see what are your possibilities, and you are a partner in this whole project. Finally, I would like to go to personal healing environments, which touched me maybe most from all my projects. And everything started with a room. It was a room for Dolf, just a person who has been very, very aggressive. Was a very successful change of his room and his behavior. Meanwhile, we have a lot of research now and we publish things. But I would like to take you with me into the project and the story of Dolf. So Dolf lived for almost 25 years in this surrounding. He was very aggressive. He had a steel bed fixed to the ground. You can see that the bed is not really on a perfect spot to feel comfortable and to feel safe if you are very vulnerable. He has the mental capacity of a 2-year-old child, and his outside spot looked like this. Even the chair outside was bolted to the ground. He had a high fence. He was really kind of caged like an animal. It was a door to lock him up. And when we got this project, I said, I really have to observe him. I cannot design for somebody that was that vulnerable and that aggressive also, I really have to get a click. I have to I have to know him, or I have to get a feeling about him. And they said, oh, but he's very dangerous. And I said, it doesn't matter. I will stay with him, and I would like to see his room, and I would like to see him especially. And while I was really empty and for the first time didn't know what to do in here in this case, I was looking at him and I saw him running in and out in his rubber boots. And suddenly it popped up in me, oh, I think you play a role. This is role playing, and you play the role of a farmer. I think you would like to be a farmer. I don't know. It was such an idea. And I've always played to be an architect. So that's really funny. And maybe that helped me. I'd like to take you with me to look at the movie, how his situation has been, and about him.
In this facility, in the heart of Holland, some of the clients have severe behavioral problems. They are destructive and aggressive to themselves and their environment. One of them is Dolf, who has a mental capacity of a 2-year-old.
Agressie uit zich voornamelijk fysiek bij Dolf. Dus dan hebben we het over schoppen, slaan. Echt de fysieke toenadering zoeken, dus beetpakken, trekken aan haren. Het is voor hem echt een uiting van onbegrip. Hij snapt gewoon zijn wereld niet. En wij moeten daarmee handelen. Op het moment dat je bij hem zijn kamer in ging, was er altijd iemand als backup. Stond er bij de deur om veiligheid te waarborgen.
Je kan het hem niet vragen, dus we weten het niet. Maar dat hij veel sloopte, dat is duidelijk.
Er stond eigenlijk niets in zijn kamer wat los was. Hij had een tafel, een stoel en een bed in zijn kamer staan. Dat stond vast tegen de muur of tegen de vloer. En verder geen losse attributen waarmee hij zichzelf of anderen wat aankomt.
Er stond een groot hek eigenlijk om de buitenplaats heen. Nou, dat was gewoon een afschuwelijk gezicht. Ik heb geen ander woord voor. Het was echt verschrikkelijk. Met name voor een moeder is dat extreem moeilijk. Op een gegeven moment heeft ze gezegd, het ging zo ver dat ze zei, nou ik doe het niet meer, ik kom niet meer. Want ik was dagen van overstuur. Wat ik me goed voor kan stellen.
His desolate quarters were not questioned by the staff at the time.
Ja, nou, dan ga ik het gewoon heel eerlijk beantwoorden. Op dat moment wist ik niet beter. Natuurlijk heb je daar wel een gevoel bij dat het niet iets is wat je iemand gunt. Maar op dat moment leek het ons echt noodzakelijk om dat zo in te richten.
So you can imagine my shock when I saw it and how to deal with such a situation. And I realized I really have to look for the identity. Whom does this person really would love to be? And I mentioned you that I thought, I think he would like to be a farmer. And it was just this intuition. We have to design something that he feels like that he really can play this role, that he can be himself. So we decided to ask a very famous Dutch photographer if he could use one of his famous Dutch landscape photographs. Here you can see it's the work process with the television that had to be included, and the door, even on the door, the panels went on with these beautiful landscape. It's not that red, I must say, but here you can see this entire new space. We decided to let a carpet maker make a bed from massive oak. It's much more natural, and you give somebody its dignity back of a really, really a bed and not just a steel bed. So it feels much more safe and protected. This red, it's less red as it looked like on the photo, but it's like the first color you see through the belly of your mother when she's pregnant with you and when the light falls on it. So it's a very, very warm red that is very protecting. It works very, very well for him. Small details, his bed. And this has been the heating, and we just covered it with massive oak, but with another form. It looks more friendly. I saw that he had a favorite spot, and we carved out his butt just to show him, yeah, we know you. We give you this little sign. Dignity, feeling like a normal person. I think this is the most important thing for all people in this entire world. We always feel like a normal person, and we are not judged or We can just be in this world. Overview, feeling safe. I just go back. You see that from his bed. He can see if somebody enters now. He can oversee the entire room and can look to the outside. This gives him a feeling of safety. Then people start to relax. When it came to designing the outskirt and the fence again, I asked the team, and we had a very, very close cooperation, and it was really wonderful how they were involved and engaged. And I asked them, do we have to bring back these high fence? Will he run away? And then first they said, yes, this will happen. And then one person said, no, I think he's afraid. He's afraid of us. And it's a really different starting point. So we decided to make a lower fence that he feels safe when he is entering his outside space. But then when he feels safe, he can run around the fence and the bench and go to the others when he feels safe. So this self-determination, that you can decide yourself what you do, it's very, very important. And his entire self-determination has been taken away before that. On the other side of the street, it's higher, but where he can look to the outside, there is glass and no fence, so much friendlier. And when he returned to his room, we were super nervous because he really demolished directly everything that had been changed. And now we changed his entire room. And they called us and they said, oh, he jumped up and down and he was so happy. And he said, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is so beautiful. And then he fell in love with this room. And when I returned 2 months later, I saw him making his bed and putting the little carpet really parallel in front of the bed. It was lovely to see. And from that moment, his entire behavior changed. And he, for me, he became kind of normal. It's really changed. I will show you a movie soon. Just to show you my approach. We have the existing situation. And what I always do is that I go to the healthcare facility, I really listen carefully and I observe, and again, I almost run a day with them and really look how things happen and how people, then I have this inspiration. Now I know you can also do biographical work in their case, and then this interpretation, and you really find out who is this person, who does this person wants to be, and then create a tailor-made environment. This is important for people who are that vulnerable and that aggressive. In the normal cases and more generic, you can do more transformable things and things that can be changed and rechanged again. But in this case, you should really make a personalized and humanized environment. So it's kind of psychological architecture. The seclusion in his rooms are now 0, and it's amazing to see that how his behavior changed. We felt very guilty about the costs. You see the gray balcony. This has been the costs, and before he had the blue balcons the blue lines are the healthcare costs per year, the annual costs, and the orange one has been the extra because he was that aggressive, and they went down and they are 0 now. And I understood that they saved something like 180,000 euros, which is almost $190,000 a year because of his changed behavior. I will take you with me to see how he feels now.
Delft living quarters got a complete makeover. Everything was still bolted to the floor, but the material used was custom made. The atmosphere, friendly and open plan.
Nou, in het begin waren wij heel erg sceptisch. Want je kon van punt A, waar alles heel strak geregeld was en hij kon eigenlijk niets op die kamer opmaken bijvoorbeeld. Toen kwamen er een heleboel veranderingen en toen hadden wij zoiets, we moeten het nog zien hoe het gaat. Maar eigenlijk ging dat heel natuurlijk. Een hele natuurlijke overgang. Hij vond het prachtig, die kamer.
Delft is extremely proud of his room. He even has his own television set.
Ja, je bent heel blij als er aan begonnen wordt, sowieso. Hè? Dat mensen het initiatief nemen om uiteindelijk het leven voor Delft een stukje mooier te maken.
Er is echt gedragsverandering is er opgetreden. En dat is denk ik voor een groot deel te wijten ook aan die verbouwing. Eigenlijk was het toen gewoon, nu is de situatie zo, dus nu gaan we er zo mee om. En er was ook geen weg meer terug naar het isolement waar hij in zat. Nee, hij was nu gewoon vrij om zich te bewegen waar hij wilde en waar hij kon.
His tendency to hurt himself or break everything around him has dramatically reduced.
Waar het vroeger, waar zijn cadeaus heel snel kapot gingen, daar blijft het nu gewoon weken, soms maanden blijft het staan op zijn kamer. En hij is er trots op.
Hij beweegt zich veel meer door de groep heen. In de koffiekamer of in het gedeelte daar waar de televisie staat, dat een beetje de centrale ruimte is. En nou, als het dan even veel wordt, dan trekt hij zich weer terug op eigen terrein en dan gaat hij weer naar zijn kamer toe. Dus dat sociale contact is enorm verbeterd.
Je werkt in de zorg omdat je wil iets betekenen voor die cliënt. En doordat je hem veel gelukkiger ziet op dit moment dan wat hij toen was, eigenlijk is dat gevoel onbeschrijfelijk om het zo te noemen.
Ik zit me kijken. Ja, maar. Je zit me kijken.
Said that we are allowed to have a look. So this was really a lucky story. And when I returned, I also saw later on a photograph with his mother, and she was very happy after all these years hoping that the situation of his son would change. What makes me very happy too is that after this success, a research project was set up by Ipsen the healthcare facility. And they said, okay, let's have a look and change 12 projects, 12 of these rooms. And we really do research about it. So this is ongoing. And I will show you a couple of the rooms I also changed, but other architects will also change a couple of these 12 rooms. Also a very touching project is the cocoon. This has been a lady who mostly was laying on her bed, bare and undressed. So everything was closed and nobody could look inside, but also she couldn't look outside. And when I asked what will happen when we open the window, she directly jumped to the window and she waved the fresh air over her skin. And I thought she really needs the outside space, but she also needs protection. And when I start with a project, I always look at the person and what is my observation? What do I see? And I knew that she has the age of a 3 or 4-year-old girl. So, and she really loves pink and soft materials. And she's really kind of bling bling girl. And we said, okay, if this is your identity, we create an environment that will fit very well. So she has a Hindustan background too. And I decided to do an outside space, but also especially a cocoon where she can lay and feel protected during daytime. These are the drawings of the cocoon. And this has been in the place of the carpet marker, on the working place. And what is very important when you have, in fact, although they are adults, they are like little children. And what they really need is this connection to others, this physical, visual, and auditive connection. And this is the cocoon. And you see on the left side, you see a door, and it's connected to the team. So she can hear them, and then she feels calm. Very important. And she chooses herself this pink floor and everything. We really made a little princess room to fit her identity. And she completely changed too. She even can talk now again, which is lovely. When she's angry now, she just smashes the outside door and then it's fine. But she really feels much better. Natural materials again. We really made a princess bed and these little roses. We changed the bathroom. She got a rain shower to feel fine, and these tiles. A little project has been the forest, or we name it the forest, and there was a mentally disabled person who was biting into his walls, and we decided to cover it just with the wood that is used also for children's toys. So if he's biting now in this wood, or if he would bite in this wood, it wouldn't be a problem, but he never did again. So if you make things beautiful, things very often don't happen anymore because people love the environment. So the identity, overview, dignity, self-determination are very important points to realize. The jungle, this has been a client who preferred to lay on his heart, the underground of his bed, and he always moved away his mattress. And what we did is that we did research again, biographical research, and I asked the parents, well, he's 3 months old, he's like a baby, where did he live the first 3 months? And they found out, or they told me that he was born on Bali and lived there first, and then it was clear why he was looking for this hard underground to lay there. So what he's doing now at night is that he's moving the mattress a little bit, and he's rolling into his in his blanket, and then he's laying there and he can sleep very well. A project that was very cheap and we just did small changes has been for a client who was living in this environment. It was a test, and you see that there was this big computer, and the caretaker really took care and by observing him, but it was really like Big Brother's watching you, and the client didn't feel safe at all. So I said, if we change, we take out this big computer and we rearrange the living environment. So this has been the situation before, and with the same materials, this was a place where he could snoozle, where he could sit. And I asked mother, how is he living at home? How is his environment? And is he calm? And she said, yeah, he's calm and he loves just these animals and these bees. I said, okay, we make something similar because it's working at home. So with a simple sketch, and we changed the color of his walls. We put furniture on a different position. We said, okay, the table will not be like a computer place anymore. It's more like a dining table, and the caretaker will sit there. We covered different elements. But the most important change was maybe that we made a little opening in his entrance door. So, and there was a doorbell now. If somebody wanted to enter, they had to ring the bell. He went to the door, he opens this little window, and then he's looking who's outside, and he decides himself who can enter his room. This gave him such a feeling of self-determination that they can leave him alone now for hours in the afternoon. And we changed this little place where he could chill. And it was very cheap materials. The parents just bought this little bench, this big bench, and the animals, but it had to fit. And now he lays on it and he loves it to snoozle there. It's really, really nice. Last project, the Empire. And by this project, I learned how I could find out that by biographical research, I can find also a key, and not only by my intuition, why somebody needs something. Also, this overview is very important. And now we did it for the whole dwelling, for all the other rooms too. So they had this connection to the living room. And in his case, he really loved the royal family. And we didn't know why. But he said, okay, when he really loves it and he feels like a prince, then he gets a throne to sit on and he gets a royal bed. That's what we did. And I asked mother, why does he love the royal family that much? And she said, oh, this is obvious. He grew up in Den Haag. And when the queen always opened the parliament, she passed by with the golden carriage. And then I realized this is his dream and he wants to live this dream. So that's what we realized for him. His connection to the others, the environment. Caretaker can sit next to his bed. So it's a very special work. It's very much what is psychological. We jump into the psychology of a person, the throne. And what I like very much is that the caretakers came up with one thing, and they said, oh, he is a strong believer. He really needs a Maria, kind of sculpture of Maria. So we should put a Maria in his bedroom. And we made a little beautiful golden box with protection glass, everything, that he cannot demolish it. And what I like very much is that he loves this Maria very much, and it gives him a really feeling of calmness. And they sent me this picture, and they said, can you see all the kisses on the glass? He gives kisses to Maria. And I like this very much. So you can really touch people and change their lives. And I would like to thank you